land of the free, home of the brave, and the stupid, and the criminally insane. And tonight, dear viewers, I'm talking with the man who knows them all. Passion, creation, and crime are what drive the subject of tonight's interview. A man who many claim is not just one man, but multiple. This claim, while unfounded, is why many here in my office think he/they have been able to get in with so many groups. Gangbangers and bikers, mobsters, and potato chip enthusiasts. Even the FIB, somehow this person/people really gets around. And it's also due to these connections, getting this interview was, well, difficult to say the least. But through hard work and a bit of drug trading, I was able to get in touch with a person who seemed to be my guy, a man named Guinness Walker. My request for an in-person interview was denied to assure, and I quote, my own personal safety, but an over-the-phone interview was agreed upon. The footage you're about to see was very generously provided by Mr. Walker himself from his office located in sunny. Please enjoy tonight's exclusive interview. Yes, let me just go ahead and, give you a softball. And who is Guinness Walker?
Well, actually, the answer to that is a little bit more complicated than just who is Eric, because Guinness Walker is a persona that I deliberately came up with at this point probably 10 or more years ago, a long time ago. And I would have still been in my early days of doing music, and it was never a way of obscuring my identity like a handle online. It worked for that purpose, but its purpose was to sort of create an alternate persona for my music and to serve more primarily as a stage name, because my name, I don't really like it. I like my first name, but I don't like the way my whole name sounds together. It's not a stage name. So Guinness Walker is a persona I created for my music. And at this point, he sort of represents to me my idealized self. The Walker comes from my neighborhood of Walkerville in Ontario. And the Guinness comes from, as well as the fact that I like to walk everywhere, and I don't really like to drive. I don't like cars, for the most part, which is pretty funny considering what I'm covering these days. And then the Guinness comes from, everyone thinks it's the beer, but I don't drink, and it's from the Guinness Book of World Records. Not because I'm specifically looking to get a world record, but sort of just to elicit the idea of, gaining fame or gaining recognition, because I've always had a pretty big ego. And I also used to love to read those books and like Ripley's and all that stuff when I was a kid. So that's what Guinness Walker is. It's the idealized me.
Very nice. Very nice. That was a lot more than I was expecting. Again, due to past interviews. Very nice. So have you always had an interest in music, or was that something that you found later on in life?
Another interesting answer, actually. No, I did not. In fact, so I was not put into music at a young age. I'm a little bit bitter about it sometimes, I think, because I didn't discover music until I was 15, and I did it pretty much as a response to a really bad breakup I went through at the time, and it was sort of filling the gap of that. And it became a lot more of my personality than I expected it to. But before that, it's funny, I grew up, and I remember deliberately saying to people, I hate music, but what I thought of music as, like the stuff that I would just hear around me, and a lot of the stuff I heard around me when I was growing up, I didn't like. I would later on end up liking a lot of that stuff, because it was mostly like rap from the late 90s and early 2000s, which now I actually like that stuff, but I don't like modern stuff. That's a whole other subject. But eventually, when I did discover music, I got into old stuff through mostly British bands, because my stepdad was a drummer for a Kiss tribute band.
Very nice.
And yeah, he was really good too. They were at one point, they were called Kiss Destroyer. He's not with them anymore, but at one point they were like the biggest Kiss tribute band. Anyway, so I got into Pink Floyd and The Who and Oasis, and I started I really, really wanted to. It was really Pink Floyd's The Wall that just made me really, really want to like play that. Like I wanted to feel that, the feeling of being like part of that epicness, that sort of grand production. And so I went and I bought a bass for myself at 15. I literally went just on a whim on my like first paycheck from my first job, walked down to the freaking music store, bought a bass without a case, and walked it all the way home down like the main street of my city, just carrying it all gleeful. And that's how it all started. And then these days, it's a big part of me. But yeah, there definitely was a time when music was not anything I thought about at all.
So hold on, you're a bass player?
I started as a bass player, yes. These days I play bass, piano, acoustic guitar, electric guitar. Unfortunately, I consider myself a jack of all trades musically, but master of none, which I'm trying to change.
I was gonna say you definitely got me beat. I was gonna say I got excited because I'm a bass player, and
nice.
You never really find other bass players out there. Now, I mean, there are people who play multiple instruments. I've found, I play bass on the offhand, but nobody. I'm just a bass player. But that's cool though.
I love bass. Bass and piano is where my heart is at. I love it.
I'll be honest with you. There was a period in time where I was a mover.
Oh, really?
And, due to that job, I got a lot of free stuff. People just giving stuff away that they don't want, and I could take care of it. I got a piano once.
Nice. Like an upright or?
Yeah, it was just a regular old upright. Not anything special. It wasn't name brand or anything. It was somebody's practice piano. And
still,
I did. I tried for like a couple weeks to figure it out, to learn, but it was horribly out of tune. It like I said, it wasn't a nice piano to look at very well. No, it wasn't. But I was like, I want to learn how to play piano. I always have, but I guess I just don't have the patience for it.
Hey, fair enough. I consider myself. I think that patience is my biggest issue with all of the instruments I play, because I play piano, but I'm not a performer. I'm a composer. I'm trying to change that, but I consider myself a performer first, or a composer second. Composer first, performer second. There we go.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, you've already come out and said that you, even at a young age, had a pretty big ego, and
Yes.
What was that like growing up for you? Did you always have that, or was that something that, of course, you found, actually growing up?
Well, I think, it's funny, because I imagine, and based on my own experience, this is more common than you might think, and it sounds counterintuitive, but a lot of people with really big egos also deal with a lot of like self-consciousness and issues about, am I actually good enough? Or at least that's what I've experienced. Not everyone, obviously. So when I was young, I wouldn't say like unpopular, but I wasn't like in the popular kids, and I was kind of floated between those two phases. And by the time I got to high school, I ended up snubbing the group of friends I had because of the way things went down, and I sort of transitioned into being kind of, I guess, part of the popular kids, but I never really, sort of fit in with that completely. And the ego part, I think, slowly developed probably from age 10 onwards, as I discovered, because I've always had an entertainment bent. I think there was a time I was going to be maybe like a movie actor. There was a time when I really wanted to be a politician, of all things, until I learned the politics was all bullshit, and then I decided, well, that's not a good idea. But the ego was always like, I always wanted to do big things, and but look, at the same time questioning my own ability to accomplish that. And again, as I said to you at the beginning, I'm an open book, so I really don't care. But being completely candid, I have bipolar disorder, and that means that sometimes it's part of the reason Guinness Walker exists as an idea, because I try to. It's sort of a way of compartmentalizing the types of person I can be, because I can be, very positive and very, outgoing and charismatic and all of this stuff, and the entertainer, the character you see in my videos. But I can also be quite the opposite. So it's I don't have a simple answer for this one. It's a bit of a long ramble. Sorry, but there you go.
No, don't be sorry at all. Any answer is a good answer. But I mean,
I can't help apologizing, right? I'm Canadian. It's you're gonna have to deal with lots of apologies.
Don't feel bad. I have the same problem. I can't even lie. But no, it's all good. It's all good. I will tell you though, I wasn't gonna necessarily ask this, but you brought up, that Guinness Walker and Eric are two. So, if you don't mind me asking, tell me about Eric.
Well, Eric is a lot of the things that I aspire to be with Guinness Walker, but he's also, I am also, I'm trying not to be in the third person here, very angry oftentimes. It obviously does not come through in my videos, because part of the reason I'm nervous about live streaming is because I have a temper. I don't have a history of violence or anything, but I just have a really bad temper. And it's been a constant struggle. I mean, that combined with bipolar is sort of been a constant struggle for me. And another thing, I've been striving to do, because I've always kind of wanted, at least for a long time now, to be some kind of a YouTuber. But GTA is just my springboard. I intend to go far beyond that. And one of the things I want to eventually do is to help, or maybe not help, but I want to make people aware of the fact that it's okay, and this might sound a little bit odd, but it's okay to be emotional, and it's okay, and I want to encourage men to stop being so goddamn afraid of their feelings. Because as a person with bipolar and an anger problem, growing up, and to this day, and again, I have no shame about this, and the fact that there is this, I have to make this sort of, disclaimer is stupid in my opinion, but I still think it's necessary. Like, I cry plenty of the time to this day. It's a necessary, healthy thing you have to do sometimes, and I cried a lot growing up too. And I always thought that bullshit that I was given of boys can't cry was horse crap. And I fought against that because I literally didn't have much of a choice. It was not really possible for me to not let my emotions out being bipolar. So as I've gotten older, I've learned, and anyone else who has bipolar or any kind of similar mental illness, there's as I'm sure you know, an intense stigma against mental illness. And one of the things that I want to do, that Eric, the person, wants to do more than Guinness Walker, is to help people learn that it's okay to be emotional, and to be more open and be less inside your own head all the time. I know I'm kind of veering off topic here, but I'm trying to give an answer as to who Eric is. I mean, again, Eric is I'm a musician, but the reason I kind of go to that stuff is it's probably one of the most integral parts of my personality, and something I've dealt with all my life is trying to fight against that, and I'm trying to not do that anymore. I'm trying to learn to live with it, right? Because that's the healthy thing, instead of trying to cure it, because that's not how it works, right? So that's a long answer.
No, again, no answer's a bad answer. But the older I get, I think to myself, like I not to kind of turn the spotlight or anything, but I grew up less than fortunate. It was just mainly my dad and my three brothers, or me and my two brothers. It was the three of us. But I saw my dad cry a lot. Like, there were a lot of hard times, and I always grew up with him being like, real men bleed, real men cry.
Exactly.
It's not something that you, like, I don't know. It's like, it wasn't a bad thing.
You're lucky, You're lucky, because my dad, I've seen him cry twice in my entire life, and it's part of that my dad kind of tried to instill that shit in me of, no, real men don't cry. And I think it's bullshit. I think that your dad had the right idea in mind, right? Like, it's not that, like, oh, you should be crying all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
it's that you have to deal with the bad, and you can't just pretend the bad doesn't exist. Like, that's not just being stoic all the time is not the solution to everything.
It's just, it's like you see, you shouldn't cry all the time, but if you got to, like, you shouldn't feel bad about it. There's no reason.
Yeah,
and
you should.
I respect that, and I don't know, it made me think that, maybe I was a little luckier than I thought, which, don't get me wrong, I was very fortunate to have my father. I love that man. But, yeah, my bad, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good. You're good. Like, I'm the one that brings it into that territory, but I'm also, that's kind of what I try to do. I want people to, I don't want people to be too candid when they're not comfortable with it, but I also want people to be less, we live in this crazy world where everybody is disconnected from each other on an emotional level, and everything's about this instant gratification and not actually connecting with each other. And I think it's a shame, and I want to change that. So please don't feel bad this time. I appreciate your own candidness.
Well, thank you. But no, I guess it does lead me to ask, because it does seem like you have some fairly ambitious ideas. When did you decide to put that to, like, actual YouTube?
Well, it was everyone's favorite COVID-19 that started the real train down this path. I was, I'm going to have to be a little bit vague here because I don't want to give away personal details about a person, but when I began the series, I was living with somebody at my apartment, and we were doing well together, and unfortunately, when COVID started, let me back up a bit. When COVID started, neither of us were able to work, and money was definitely going to be an issue. Now, up here in Canada, at least for about a year, and because of our situation, we were able to get some government assistance for a while, but eventually that ran out. And as that was running out, I realized I was not going to be comfortable going back to my previous job, which was Tim Hortons. And if you've ever worked, yeah, exactly. So if you've worked in the service industry, look, let me just take this moment to say, if you worked the service industry during the pandemic, you seriously, we should be praising you. And the fact that, because I know in my area there was that, essential workers for 2 weeks, and then it was gone, all right? Those are the people that should be getting the big money. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so I wasn't going to be doing that again, and I was like, no fucking way. I hated dealing with irate dumbasses in stores before. Now I'm going to deal with irate dumbasses with the possibility that one of them's going to put me in the hospital and I'm going to die alone because of some fucking moron who didn't want to wear their mask. No way. I wasn't going to do that. So I was like, I'm going to, because I'd had for years ambitions to be a YouTuber, and I'd a few times kind of tried to do it, but I needed a solid idea. And the idea of GTA biographies, not in its final form, but the idea of a GTA lore series was something I had on my mind for years, because there didn't exist one that was what I was looking for, up to the standard that I was looking for. Because there was all kinds of other similar shows like that for other games with a lot of lore, and I grew up with GTA franchise, and I always loved the connected lore. GTA might be the franchise that introduced me to the idea of an interconnected universe, because I played through Vice City, San Andreas 3, Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories, all on the PS2, as a kid, and their characters were all interconnected. It changed a bit with the 4 era, but I always found that really interesting, and there was nobody that had done anything like that. And the closest thing that sort of fit that vibe was the old Game Trailers series, the retrospective series that they had, and that was the original inspiration for the series, to do something kind of like that, and but make it a detailed lore series. And then as I was conceiving of it, I came up with the idea to keep it in universe like a TV show. And then I launched it, and it was, because originally I was doing, funny enough, Bionicle content during the fucking pandemic, because I had a little bit of a resurgence with Bionicle when the pandemic happened, because I hadn't touched them in 15 years, and I was like, what, I'm gonna go see if I have my freaking Bionicles. I went to my mom's house, picked them up, and I ended up meeting a bunch of cool people in this group of stop motion animators in Bionicle, And I did that for like a year or a little bit less than that. And also while doing that, I met a bunch of people, including some of my bandmates, and I realized Bionicle's not what I want to do for a long time. It was just like a fun little revival of my childhood, but then I was like, okay, I don't want to actually like make Bionicle content forever. And I did want to do that GTA series, so I just decided to try it. I tried it on the Bionicle channel. It actually launched on the Bionicle channel, and it did very poorly over there. And that was in January of 2020 or 2021, I don't know. It was in January, like 2 years ago, I think. And so then later that August, so yeah, actually, no, it would have been 2021, yeah. So then August of that year, I decided I had been planning that I was gonna make it work on its own. I knew that if I launched it on its own channel, that it would have a much better chance. So I launched it in August, and it was very slow going, but it was doing better. And then by October, it accelerated, and the series just kind of blew up, and I started to, like, within a month, like I was at like 400 or 500 subscribers. It was like nothing, and then it shot up to well over 1,000 within like a week or something like that. And I could start monetizing the channel, and I made like close to $1,000 Canadian in October, and I was like, okay, that's enough to cover our rent. And so that was going to be our plan. I was going to be doing that. And then in November, the situation with the person who was living here fell apart, and I was suddenly left having to pay for an apartment that was purchased for not purchased, but rented with 2 people in mind, and having to pay the rent for both of them. And so I was hoping that when Season 2 started, things would continue to go well, but by complete coincidence, Season 1 ended right in December, and it was the protagonist that I was covering. And when I started up new stuff in January, the views were, well, to say the least, significantly less. They were still far higher than I thought I would even be at that point, but I'd already gotten that effect where I was now used to getting more, so I'd gone down significantly. And at this point, rounding it out to now, I've been slowly going up, because there's that January effect with the numbers, and trying to make up the difference with Patreon and game streams. But we'll see. Things are tight, but at least I'm paying my rent consistently. Groceries is another story. That's why I'm doing the other stuff. So at a certain point, I would have to go back to doing regular work, but at least for now, it's still possible, and I hope to keep doing it for the foreseeable future, and hopefully it doesn't come to me having to leave. But even if I do have to leave, my goal is always going to be to come back. So there you go.
Of course. No, well, like I explained in our little conversation before this, I completely get it. I mean, that's kind of what happened. I stepped away for a while, and now I felt like I was at a point where I could come back, so I did. But no, that's why I also want to just go ahead and thank you again for giving me your time. I know, like, you have stuff to do, but I don't know. Again, I appreciate it, but
no problem. I'm also very glad to say that, because you never know when you're just communicating in text until you actually speak to somebody, but you seem like a very cool guy, and I'm more than happy to work with you in the future, time, allowed. The only issue is time, but you seem like a guy who's definitely worth collaborating with. You seem like you're down to earth, and you're very polite, so
I'll keep
no
that
problem.
in mind. But no, one of the things that I try to do, there's only been one interviewee that I haven't been able to do this with, but when I pick somebody I'm going to interview, I try to watch every one of their videos. There's one person who has way too many videos, and I haven't been able to watch every one. But yours, I have spent more than a fair amount of time watching, and then rewatching when you bundled them together into one video.
Nice.
There's 2 things that drew me to your videos, and that kind of made me wanted to reach out and talk to you. And that's the first thing being the aesthetic of everything. I do thoroughly enjoy the TV show aspect of it, just because there was a period in time where I was living alone, but I was playing GTA Online very heavily. So if I wasn't really doing anything, but I was just kind of hanging out, maybe waiting for somebody else to get online, or really just not doing fuck all, I'd watch the TV.
Me too.
I think I prefer GTA 4's TV over Grand Theft Auto 5's, but
there's not enough in 5, you know.
Well, I was just disappointed they didn't bring back the knife show. Another fact about my father is in real life he loved the knife show. He worked late nights, and he would get one of the local TV stations that showed it, and he would just have it on while he was doing his work. It's kind of funny. But I remember finding out, like watching it, because I played Grand Theft Auto 4 well later than I should have.
Okay.
I didn't play it until like 5-6 years ago.
Okay.
I happened across a rogue copy, and they made it backwards compatible on the Xbox One. So I said, fuck it, I guess now's the time. And I was sitting there watching the TV, and I was like, the night show came on. I always thought that was really fun. What would you say is your favorite Grand Theft Auto?
It's tough, but I usually go with 4. But I'm not a 4 lover who hates 5. Because I've noticed a lot of fans of 4 don't like 5, and I think it's just because 5 is so different in terms of presentation. It feels totally different because it should. It's not supposed to be a dark and gritty game like 4 is. So 4, I would say, is probably my favorite. And second to that, maybe Liberty City Stories. Honestly, the Stories games, Vice City Stories and Liberty City Stories, are so underrated. I love them.
I would have to say Vice City Stories is one of my favorite ones, just because it has Phil Collins in it.
Yes! I showed that to my buddy for the first time the other day, and he was like, wait, they actually did this? Yes, they actually programmed Phil Collins' entire In the Air Tonight concert in the fucking Renderware engine, and it's amazing.
So my editor wife, she doesn't care too much for video games, but she does care a whole fuck ton for Phil Collins.
Nice.
So that was kind of my segue into Grand Theft Auto, was to be like, hey, check out this Phil Collins concert that they put into this game. Isn't this sweet?
Nice. Very nice. Clever.
But, I'll be honest with you. There was a period in time, maybe like a few months back, where I just got it in my head, because I'm good at getting ideas in my head and never doing anything with them. But I wanted to do something in Grand Theft Auto 5 to just explain why I don't like it as much as I do. But I do, man. I hate Grand Theft Auto 5. It's not a bad game. It's not a bad game, because I played it too many times for me to say that I didn't get any enjoyment out of it. I even replayed it when I got that thought in my head, because I was like, I want it fresh in my mind's eye when I'm gonna try to sit down and figure out how I'm gonna write this. And I was gonna do it with my like GTA online character, and like record him walking around and actually make it like he's a person living in Los Santos. But I'll be honest with you, this is gonna sound really fucking dumb, but one of my biggest gripes with Grand Theft Auto 5, it's Laszlo.
Because we see him?
No, I love Laszlo, dude. I really do. Everybody gives him shit, and as every game comes out, he only gets shit on more and more. But like, if you think about it from Vice City, he's this cool 20-something rocker dude on the rock station, until what is he doing in San Andreas? He's on a talk show.
He's working, he's doing West Coast talk radio, or he's doing what's it called, Entertaining America. But he's like significantly less important by that point. Like he's like nobody gives a shit. His show is pretty short, and they mock him. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's the co-host. Yeah,
and the chick
he tries to be the host, and he's like, shut up, you're the fucking co-host, buddy. Yeah.
But like, and then I have to be honest with you. Grand Theft Auto 3's talk radio is my favorite talk radio of all time. I listen to it like just on its
good.
own. And it's because I love Laszlo. I love the way that they made him. Sure, he was kind of a doofus, but like that whole deal with him and Reed Tucker, that right there, I remember like hearing that, really listening to it, and I was like, this guy's fucking hilarious. And then they did Integrity in Grand Theft Auto 4 with the DLC, which I thought, again, was just absolutely phenomenal. But he had started to digress into that, I'm a fucking, douchey idiot, like, I follow trends, and I'm old, and all of my successes are in the past.
I mean, I kind of hear what you're saying, but I kind of like... I mean, it's Grand Theft Auto. It's often ridiculous, and his story does get more ridiculous as the games go on. But I almost like, because you have to also remember he writes a lot of that himself.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it was part of his own idea to like make the character more and more pathetic, because the real Laszlo Jones is obviously not that pathetic, and it's almost just like I imagine for him it's cathartic and also kind of like just funny, and I like how pathetic. Like, just in terms of entertainment value, I like how pathetic Laszlo ends up. I think maybe it goes a little too far at 5, but I've also listened to, back to the radios, and again, if you go back to 3, yeah, he's a lot more tame. But if you go, even by the point of, San Andreas, he's already super raunchy and pretty pathetic already at that point, and it just kind of just gets worse and worse as time goes on. But I don't know, that's almost like his arc, right? So, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I get it. It doesn't mean I like it, but I also don't like what they did to, again, really bad with names. Lost and Damned main character.
Johnny, yes, okay.
That one really absolutely pissed me off, because Lost in the Damned, again, didn't get to play Grand Theft Auto 4 until so many years ago, but the Lost in the Damned was what made me want to play Grand Theft Auto 4.
It's really good, yeah.
I love biker aesthetics, and I don't know. I really wanted to play it, and I fell in love with the characters, and it was great. I had a great time, only for him to become a fucking smack addict and get fucking stomped out by Trevor.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it feeling almost like it's Rockstar saying we don't actually like that, we didn't like this, and we're trying to disown it. And I do also get that it's kind of a cheap way, but it is an effective way to make you realize what kind of a character Trevor is.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying it's necessarily it's not what I would have done, but I'm also not I was initially shocked by it, but I'm not super upset about it. And in terms of Johnny becoming a smack addict, I think it's kind of like Game of Thrones season 7 and 8, right? As far as I know, that was going to be the way the show was going to go no matter what, but none of it was earned because it was done so fast, right? And even if the end result would have been the same, there just needed to be more to earn that ending. So we needed to have seen more of what leads Johnny down that road, because I could see Johnny going down that road because of his addiction to Ashley.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to see how he ends up where he is at the end of Lost in the Damned, how he gets from that, which is completely different, to how he is at the beginning of 5. And I think that's what's frustrating about it. So I can understand that.
He said, "Bye, Liberty City. Hello, Trevor's foot."
Yeah, basically.
No, but past that, those are two of my biggest complaints about Grand Theft Auto 5. Outside of that, the actual story, I loved, when I first played it back in 20 whatever it first came out. I really loved Trevor because I was still younger at that point in time, so my mental state was different, and I was just like, yo, he's fucking crazy, and that's that shit. But again, playing it, just a few months ago, I found that Trevor has the most character. I think I gravitated towards him because due to just him being a more, I don't know, a more complex character than Michael and Franklin are, in my opinion.
I, for the most part, agree. I mean, something that comes up a lot is people tell me, talk about, oh, is this a good character? Is this a bad character? This is the worst character. This is the best character. And, specifically, with my biography series, I'm always trying to examine, granted from a satirical way, but I'm trying to examine if these people were real, right? So it's like, okay, if any of these people were real, they'd all be horrible.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
They'd have body counts so far beyond anybody who's ever existed that's done that kind of stuff, right? So it's hard to say. So if you ignore that and examine them as the characters they are in the story, yeah, I agree. Like, Trevor's more of an interesting character, even if he is a psycho fucking cannibal and all this other crazy shit. But yeah, he has a lot more characterization than, I'd say Franklin is the least developed, but it's almost, I think that's kind of intentional to a certain extent, because I think they intended maybe to, because there was originally DLC plans in that maybe they were going to expand it, because part of Franklin's personality is that he's more of a blank slate, and that he's kind of being impressioned by both Trevor and Michael. So, but yeah, I agree. Trevor is probably the most, of the three protagonists anyway, interesting character.
So I'm going to ask you two questions in fairly rapid succession. I'm going to ask you one, let you answer, and then ask you another.
Right.
And it's just so I don't lose them. The first question being, do you feel like the reward you get from playing a Grand Theft Auto 5 mission is worth the effort?
Well, what do you mean specifically by reward? Do you mean in-game reward, or do you mean like the reward and like the dopamine, the like satisfaction?
Yeah, the feeling of playing, like going through it and actually completing it, and about halfway through the game, like how do you think you're generally feeling about the missions you've had to play to get there?
I enjoy them. What I think frustrates me is maybe some of them that are a little bit too scripted, but beyond that, because they're not all like that,
no.
And I generally have plenty of fun. Like, I don't find myself having significantly less fun playing 5 than any other of the GTAs, except for maybe, like, Advance. But even Advance I had fun with. So, poor Mike. So, yeah, I still like 5. I don't find myself getting, like, bored, and I would say the missions, feel satisfying for the most part, except for when they're obviously and too heavily scripted. So like a mission that sticks out of my head is kind of lame is the what is it, marriage counseling, where you tear down Madrazo's house. Mm-hmm. Like that mission's pretty lame. But there's also like missions in the old games that are either lame or outright mind-bogglingly frustrating. And so I don't know, I've played through every single Grand Theft Auto game in the last year and a half. So I've got a pretty good idea of, which ones, annoyed me the most, which ones I had the most fun with. And I had a lot of fun playing 5. I think just because 5 has the benefit of being as modern as it is, and the controls and the feel of the game feeling so good. Right? Does that speak to the overall, like, because can you compare the way you feel about 5 now to the way you felt about, San Andreas when it came out? I don't know, right? Because it's probably different. So, I think they're all acceptable, with maybe Advance being the only one that's like kind of significantly under the bar, but it's still fun enough. It's a for a Game Boy Advance game, it's fine.
Well, that's definitely something to take into consideration. The fact that the system it was on to even start with, that's the one Grand Theft Auto I've never played. Or
just don't get me started on 1 and 2. If Nostalgia 64, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry, man. But I don't like 1, 2 in London, mostly just because there's no easy way to play them with good controls. If there was, maybe I'd change my mind, but there's not. Sorry.
Yeah, no, those are like the classic Fallout games. If you're gonna play them, you're just gonna have to be forced to play with what they gave you, because that's what it was when it came out.
It's funny you say that, because I actually do love the classic Fallout games. I just deal with that shit.
Oh man, I love Fallout. Actually, in a weird kind of segue, I told you about me doing characters in my last interview. That actually started because I wanted to try and figure out a way to mimic the master's voice of multiple people talking at the same time. But because I'm probably too dumb to figure it out. But no, there was no way I was going to make that happen. So I was like, okay, what if I just have other people, that I can do that.
Well, what you would want to do, if I could, like, just thinking about it off the top of my head, what I would think is you have a line, you record your line, right? You use your line as the base, right? Because you want to be one of the voices. And then you get, because you would want to have other people doing the voices. In fact, that's how the master is done. It's not just one person.
Right.
So you would have other voices and just ask them to, they need to record their line to fit your audio wave file exactly. It needs to be said exactly like you say it with the same cadence, the exact same duration, and you have 3 or 4 other people do that. And then with some simple editing in Audacity or something, you could achieve a pretty similar effect.
That is absolutely going to be something I tried at a later point in time. I was very excited about the idea, but I just, again, couldn't figure it out, so I moved on from it. But no, I'm gonna have to try that. So I've done since forgot that second question I was going to ask you that I told you I was going to ask you, so I didn't forget.
That's my fault. I went on too long. I'm sorry.
No, but that's fine, because I can always give you the easy question of you've put a lot of time into your videos. Oh, and I forgot one of the other things that drew me into your videos: your voice. You have a very good, I'd say, radio voice.
Thank you. I've heard this. It's funny because when I'm trying to have, my sort of speaking voice, I think it works. But if anybody's ever heard me when I'm really trying to sing, especially when I go outside my range or when I get excited, I go way outside of this sort of normal radio voice. I can go really high pitched, really quickly, especially when I get upset. But thank you.
Anyways, that came out of nowhere. But you've put a lot of time and effort into your videos, and I'm gonna go ahead and assume that out of all that time, you probably have at least one favorite. What would you say is your favorite YouTube video you've done?
Either Huang or Mike's episode. I'd say Huang's episode, because Chinatown Wars I hadn't played before. I knew of it, I remember it coming out, and I just didn't play it because at the time I didn't have a PSP, and I don't think I had a DS, or if I had a DS at the time, I didn't want to play it on DS because it looked crappy on DS, in my opinion. And I really wanted to play the game. For whatever reason, I didn't get around to it. And when I started to do this series, I was like, I have to play through every single one of them. I'm not skipping anything that's considered canon. So I went and I found a way to play Chinatown Wars by emulating it. And at this point, I wish so badly I played it back in the day, because I only had a limited amount of time to play it. And when I started filming for the series, I played 3 in Vice City and actually played them legit. But by the time I got to San Andreas, I realized I didn't have time to play them legit. So I played through San Andreas and most of the other ones. When I could, I cheated and got through it as fast as I could. But with Chinatown Wars, I'm like, screw that. I'm going to make the time. And I deliberately, I spent only about a week, but I spent, actually playing the game. And I loved Chinatown Wars. And then there was the fact that I had to go and find, like, voice actors. And it was a lot of fun. And I think the voice actors turned out, lots of people think they're super corny, and they are kind of super corny. But I kind of love it. I kind of love it for that reason. And there's also a few of my friends also helped me out with it too. So I'd say Huang's episode, because I learned a whole bunch about it. It was a bunch of extra work. Both Huang and Mike's episode were just totally different experiences to make, because I had to approach them completely differently, film them completely differently. And I'd say Huang's, with Mike's being a close second.
Well, alright, so I mean, you are very in tune with Grand Theft Auto, I'd assume, due to all the time you've spent playing it. I guess it's kind of been, I think it's confirmed that there's a Grand Theft Auto 6 coming out.
Oh, there is. It's confirmed that it's in the works, yeah.
Okay. So let me go ahead and ask you, as somebody who's, been playing these games and has, basically lived in these worlds more or less due to, Guinness Walker. What are your hopes for 6? Do you think it'll be able to be, well, in lack of better terms, good?
Well, see, the answer to that question is, I'm trying to not have much expectations at all for 6. And look, if this was a regular Grand Theft Auto release, I could have plenty to say. But the problem is, 3 very important people who made the Grand Theft Auto franchise what it is are gone. And I don't know what it's going to look like without Leslie Benzies, Dan Houser, and Laszlo Jones. I don't know. Look, are they the only good writers in the world? No. Could they find people that could write just as good as them? Yes. But will they? And have they? I don't know. I'm very worried about what Grand Theft Auto's... Look, Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be huge, even if it's terrible. Because it's like Episode 1 or Episode 7 of freaking Star Wars, right? Like, people are going to get it. People are going to talk about it, and even if we later decide it was actually way worse than we initially thought at the time, we're probably going to think it's great when it comes out. So, what is it going to look like? What is it going to be like? I don't know. What am I expecting? Vice City.
That's all I'm expecting.
Yeah, I'm expecting to go to Vice City because I don't know why they wouldn't take us there, considering it's the only, unless you count Las Venturas and San Fierro, but I don't think that's the route they're going to go. It would be really cool if they invented a new city, because, they're literally still recycling the same 3 cities. They haven't invented a new city since Las Venturas and San Fierro, which is 18 years ago. So.
You know what would really fuck me up?
What?
If they announced that it was in Carcer.
I've heard that as a rumor, too.
Oh, I doubt it. No, there's no way.
I don't think so. It would be very interesting if they did that, because it would be like, no, we're going to actually acknowledge Manhunt again. And it's like, really? Okay. That's weird. Because, wait, they mentioned Carcer City in GTA 5, too. So it is a possibility, however unlikely, I guess.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I loved Manhunt more than I did Rockstar's other works. Manhunt was my jam. I played it well before I was really supposed to, but I played it nonetheless. And I don't know. I've always thought, well, as anybody who really played it back in the day thought that it was truly underappreciated, and it still remains to be underappreciated because, I bought it on PC and it doesn't even fucking work.
Yeah, that's one of the issues. Because I'm considering, I haven't actually played Manhunt at all, and God. I've considered, because I know it's connected to the GTA 3D universe.
Yes.
And people have asked me to do, some Manhunt biographies, but I don't know if that's going to be plausible. I've heard from Manhunt fans that it's probably not got enough material on any specific characters for that type of video, but maybe a geographies or maybe something like that. It's definitely something I've considered, and I've referenced it at least like in the Phil Cassidy episode. So I do want to play it eventually, and with starting to stream games now, I'd try it eventually on stream. If it doesn't get me kicked off of YouTube or get the stream taken down at least or something, because I don't know if Manhunt's allowed on YouTube. It's pretty brutal, but I think it should be okay. So I'm interested to give it a shot myself and see what I think about it, because I have essentially, other than the story that I know, the very little story and the idea of like what it's the feel of the game, I don't know anything about what happens in the game, and I don't know how the controls work, and I'm trying to keep it that way so I can go in as fresh as possible and have my opinion on it,
Understood. Yeah, you definitely stopped me from talking about Manhunt, which I was really gearing up to do. So that works. But yes, as far as like doing a biography, you may be able to get one on the main character, but that's just because you're with him the whole damn time. And even then,
James Earl Cash, right? That one? Right, that's what I've heard. If anything, he'd probably be the only one. Because I've also heard Daniel Lamb in 2? I don't think there's enough on him, right? That's what I've heard. That there's not enough. You don't really learn anything about him. So
even James, you'll spend all your time with him, but he says very minimal dialogue.
Right.
I don't know. It's definitely something you should play, and if you have an Xbox of any variety, you can buy it for $10 and play it on the Xbox backwards compatibility.
I don't yet. That's one of the reasons I haven't. That I'll be starting with Red Dead 2 instead of Red Dead 1 as well, because there's another franchise I haven't touched that I'm looking forward to getting into. But yeah, until I'm completely financially stable, I can't afford to get an Xbox. But eventually I'll do that and then get a capture card, and then I can cover games that aren't games like that I can't get on PC. So that'd be cool.
Well, I was gonna say, don't worry. You can. There is a patch to make Manhunt work, but it's a bitch and a half to get to work.
Well, I'm used to that. I have to deal with that all the time already.
Yeah, I'll just be honest with you. I bought it on sale on Steam, and then I quit fooling with it because I couldn't. I couldn't figure it out because again, small brain. But
I don't blame you, man. Like honestly, I think every time I think I have a handle on modding a game, I don't. So don't feel bad.
but no, I guess using Manhunt as a jumping off point, I'll go ahead and kind of ask because you brought it up in a video a while back. What are your hopes for the future with your channel?
Well, criminal history is sort of the future direction. So, for those who haven't noticed, I brand it from the beginning. I've tried to brand it as two sort of things. There's the name of the show in the universe, which is Grand Theft Auto Biographies, and then there's the name of the show on YouTube, which is supposed to be a criminal history. So, criminal history, for a while now, I've planned to start with Grand Theft Auto and sort of slowly transition into related things until I can cover everything that I want to cover, which is going to be, crime movies, and then eventually real life crime, like real life, from serial killers to, like Al Capone and people like that, because my town has a pretty deep connection with Al Capone via the what's it called, liquid gold, the Canadian whiskey that Al Capone made his fortunes off of, was made in my hometown, just 5 minutes away from me, at the brewery down by the river that I'll be going towards, actually. And there's still a lot of history in my town, too, because of that. And that's probably one of the things that, I don't know if Grand Theft Auto started my interest in that, or if it was the other way around, but there's a connection there. So I love movies like Scarface and The Godfather, and Casino and Goodfellas and stuff like that. So I want to eventually go from Grand Theft Auto to like games that are movie games like Godfather games, Mafia games, and then go from there into just the movies themselves like Mafia or like The Godfather and stuff like that, and then from there into real life criminals, and then from there I don't know, but that's the plan right now, and that's at least a several year plan. And then eventually, I've kind of thought of myself as like a similar idea or similar channels is like think like the Act Man or what's another like channel that started very like Act Man started very deliberately as Halo content, and these days he can cover just about anything he wants. And that's kind of my hope, right? Like, I don't want to be limited to even just video games, especially because video games is definitely a huge passion of mine, but music is also a very huge passion of mine. And it's always going to be important to me to be able to incorporate music into what I'm doing, which is why, like, one of the things I do for Grand Theft Auto Biographies, every episode has at least one original track, and it's one of my favorite things to do for the show. So I'm always going to try and incorporate music into it, but for now, the plan is to expand slowly and make criminal histories on all kinds of stuff.
Well, I can tell you, I for one, love criminal stuff. Maybe it's just because I think, I don't know, cops are not as cool as robbers, but I don't know. They're organized crime in general used to be a really strangely good and bad thing at the same time, and it's a weird duality. But I would have loved to have been a mobster back in the day. I don't know. But no, it's looking like I've taken up a hair bit under an hour of your time. I think
we can call it now. That's fine.
I was gonna say I think I've pretty much exhausted my list of questions, so I'll go ahead and ask before I let you go. Is there anything that you would like to say to anybody who happens to view this video?
Yeah, and to yourself as well, because you mentioned at the very beginning, that you're still trying to figure out this whole, YouTube thing, and I would say for anybody who's aspiring to be a YouTuber or anything like that, any kind of artistic or entertainment endeavor or whatever your passion is, don't let this fucked up, twisted, bullshit society tell you that you shouldn't do that, or that it's more important that you waste most of your life doing something miserable for somebody who doesn't appreciate you. If you can, pursue your passions. Don't put yourself out of house and home, but follow your dreams, and don't let anyone tell you that you can't.
I love it, because I completely agree. I really do. It's important to, we have to live, we have to do things to live, but that doesn't mean we have to live to be unhappy.
That's right.
Guinness, Eric, I greatly appreciate y'all joining me today. It was very, very good. It was a great interview. And to anybody who, is viewing this video, I thank you for your time as well. Please make your way over to Guinness Walker's channel. He'll have a tab at the end screen of this video. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, and go over there and get some good Grand Theft Auto stuff.
Yeah, do it. Listen to the man.
And if you happen to enjoy my sultry tones, please be sure to hit the subscribe button on my channel as well. And thank y'all for watching, and I will see all y'all in the next one.